Well, hey there team, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to my overview of Killer Klowns from Outer Space, the game. So for those who want to cross-side your overviews on the channel, which is where I take a look at the first 2 hours of game, because that's the Steam refund window. Steam thinks you can make up your mind whether you want to keep a game or not in that time period. I tend to agree. Generally would say you're not going to change your mind 20 hours in from your initial thoughts 2 hours in. So I'll keep it short and punchy, around 10 minutes with broad strokes info, and then you can make up your mind on your own. So this is weird, but it's good. It's good for what it is, okay? So I suppose there's a little bit of preamble, right? So this is made, developed, published by IllFonic. I think that's how you pronounce it, but I don't know. Who most relevantly and most notably did the Friday the 13th game. Now I missed that, I never played it, and it got delisted last year. And I think that was a rights issue. Nothing really wrong with the game from what I understand. In fact, if anything, the delisting has probably helped its, cult popularity, but I believe it is fairly well remembered. But it's a Dead by Daylight like, I suppose you could say, but less worried about going down that kind of Dota MOBA path. We've got 10,000 characters to learn all their move sets, and I think it's just a much more graspable game. That was always my take from afar, because I'm not really a Dead by Daylight guy either. So this is, you could argue, a spiritual successor in many ways as well. It's aping the 80s movie Killer Klowns, which I never watched actually. That's a big blind spot in my 80s background. However, all the aesthetic stuff is there for settings and the human characters. You can 80s up as anything. All the stereotypical costume department is there, which was very much in the Friday the 13th game. So I would hazard that if you liked that, you're very much going to like this. And I feel like a lot of people may well be treating that this is a bit of a spiritual successor, or, a revival in a way, just with a different license. My experience with IllFonic is more in the realm of the Ghostbusters game and the Predator game that they did. And those are different genres again, basically. They're sort of asymmetric multiplayer, but given the size of them, 4v1, when I've played them in the past, I've done it with a bunch of mates, right? So like we'll have a 5-man lobby and just shuffle it up. So, you've got 5 dudes in a Discord, a bit of table talk, bit of banter, and so you're not really going to be able to do that here because it's a 3 versus 7. And that's actually a much bigger difference. And that's why I would say they're almost different genres, because I doubt you're going to get 10 people in a Discord call to play this. Also, I feel like if you're a bit cagey about Dead by Daylight because some of the sort of toxic BM that can occur in that sort of game. Again, I'm a little bit at a distance. That seems to be able to happen here. I've seen some instances where there's one dude left and the other team just being a pack of dickheads, and you're just sort of spectating it. It's that when I've got a stack of 1,000 different games going in for BM routinely, this early in the launch, not really my bloody appetite, to be honest. But yeah, if you're not across it, essentially it's asymmetric. It seems to have taken some learnings from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I played a bit of and I really liked, even though it's not IllFonic. I would argue it's the one that kind of iterated on this genre by multiple antagonists being a team. I think you have 3 versus 4 in that. So you're 3 clowns versus 7 people, and it's all a bit chaotic. The clowns have a pretty fixed move set. There are some weapons you can unlock, but at least in the early goings, it's going to be your candy cane gun, bloody fairy floss, whatever people call it, and you can use that to try and hose people down and trap them in a cocoon, or you can use like a melee and then just straight up execute them. The interesting, unique thing from the attackers, the bad guys, the clowns, whatever you want to call it, is that you have these sort of generator things around the map, and you're putting these candy fairy floss cocoons on them, and you can find them just randomly spawned around. So you don't necessarily have to trap and hook a player, much like, Dead by Daylight, I suppose. You can sort of just run around scooping up these things, which is cool. Like, it's an answer. It feels like a creative answer to having to hunt players full time, which, the scales can become very, very unbalanced if maybe you're level 1 and you're up against level hundreds that, just run rings around you and fuck with you. So it's cool that the antagonists it's a 50-50 split. I guess it depends on how you want to go about it and how you build, but like exploring the map and zipping around and getting these cocoons, and then the generators will spawn little mobs. So it's almost got some MOBA influences in it, albeit lightly. And these little dudes will walk around and look for like audio signals from players. So The point is, as the match goes on, and as long as the clowns are doing what they're supposed to be doing, it's going to become very Doom Timer. It's very, very much speeding towards the end of the round. Now, that will come already in a clown apocalypse or whatever it is, essentially an end clock Doom Timer with one last escape. But yeah, it's cool, and I quite enjoyed playing as the clowns. But like there is... I don't know, honestly, if there's an art to the combat encounters or if it is just organized chaos. Because if you go up against more than one human and they've got weapons and that, you're going to get trounced. And then it cuts the other way as well. If you're a human, you get jumped by two clowns, you're pretty cooked as well. So it turns into this weird brawl where whoever brought the most numbers just obliterates the other side. And if you're a human, you're dead, you're gone. If you're a clown, you go on a long respawn timer. There is a one-shot respawn machine that can bring back all humans, but then it breaks. So you can have a clutch moment where you resurrect like 4 or 5 dudes. I've seen it happen. And the humans are essentially just running around trying to pick up items to level the playing field and trying to get to one of the various escapes. So yeah, from what I know of Friday the 13th, I watched a bit of it from afar actually back in the day on YouTube. This actually plays quite close to it. However, it's not one killer, it's 3, but all the move sets and all the mechanics are all very graspable. I just do wonder how it will go, and I truly hope it finds a success, because I don't necessarily have nostalgic ties to it, and if you really, put my feet to it, is this my favorite Ilphonic game? No, not really. I really enjoyed the Predator and Ghostbuster games. I loved them, but again, not to go full circle, I approached that in a very different way. More with the boys, whereas this, I suppose you could queue with a couple of dudes, right? But it's probably not going to be more than 3, given that you only have 3 on a clown side. And it is one of those things, like, I wouldn't call them ultra indie. They've made their mark. They've got very high quality games, and this is as well, right? But I would argue it's an obscure theme, even for me, a child of the 80s. And I wonder what the overlap is. I hope it's there, but again, I'm not super entrenched in this. So this is probably great news for the Friday the 13th game fans, and they're going to eat well, but I hope it doesn't fall over and die, because it essentially requires 10 people in a lobby. A lot of the matches I was starting were short a couple of people, and it seems to put AI in, but I think if you lose a clown you kind of really fuck, but it'll put AI humans in. But I saw plenty of rage quitting on both sides, cracking the sads and leaving the match and that as well. So just keeping a 10-man lobby together and going, I don't know, I do worry about it. The more abstract a video game you make, and the more players that it's required, and the more indie it goes, like once these things start Swiss cheesing, you might be condemning your game to death. However, you do get those 1 in a millions like Dead by Daylight that have outrageous success against all odds. So look, I hope this pops off. I hope it's well received and that it finds its audience, which is people in that space, the Dead by Daylights. Definitely Friday 13th. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it took some innovation from that as well. But yeah, I like it. It's not like it's got its claws in me, but I recognize it's made for a very specific audience that I haven't spent a lot of time swimming in those waters. So for my part, I just want to put it out there and shout it out. Maybe some people didn't know this was coming or weren't interested, and maybe you're one of the Friday 13th fans and you're sad that your game got delisted, and while you might not necessarily know anything about Killer Klowns or have any interest in it, that what I've told you hopefully would be enough to pique your interest and maybe have a look in and check this out yourself. Anyway, just my thoughts. Team, I just leave it there for the time being. I'll catch you guys on the next one.